My name is Darryn Witzgall, and I am a behavior analyst with Crack River Street Outreach Program. And today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about some different strategies that you can use for attention-seeking, challenging behaviors. So the first thing that we want to ask ourselves is, how do we know that the behavior is in fact attention-seeking? Well, we can ask ourselves a couple of questions. One, does the behavior typically occur when your child isn't receiving a lot of attention? And then two, does the behavior typically result in them getting attention? So if they typically get attention from from their behaviors, then you also can ask yourselves, well, what kind of attention are they getting? For example, does your child's behavior result in getting some physical attention, some consoling, some soothing, whatnot? And then you also want to look at how much attention they're getting as a result of their challenging behaviors. So do they get a bigger reaction from the negative behavior than they do if they're engaging in positive behavior? All right, so now let's say that you've asked yourselves those questions and you have a pretty good idea that it is attention-seeking behavior. So now what? Well, you want to look, one of the first things you want to try to do is look at some of the proactive ways that you can give attention to reduce the need for them to act out for attention. So you'd be trying to eliminate the need for them to act out in the first place. So you can do this in several different ways. You want to try to focus on acknowledging the positive behavior that they are engaging in, making sure that they're getting plenty of attention for that. And that you also want to try to set up and schedule some times for them to gain some attention. So whether this be some activity times, doing some puzzles, some games, watching a show together, doing some arts and crafts. And you want to try to schedule those at certain times each day. And I know that time is very challenging right now, but if you can build it into the schedule, so it doesn't necessarily have to be 5 o'clock every day or 6 o'clock at the same time, but if they have a schedule for the day, trying to embed it within the schedule so that they know when they're getting attention, that can certainly help eliminate some of the need for them to engage in challenging behaviors to try to get attention. And then you also want to make sure that you're doing periodic check-ins. That's a quick little hello, or seeing what they're up to, asking them about some of the work that they're doing if they're working independently, checking their work, giving them praise. Or if they have a cell phone, a quick little text message, hello here and there, is also helpful. And then you also want to remember to be genuine with your attention too. You want to make sure that the quality of the attention that they're getting is very good. All right, so let's say that you have put these great proactive strategies in place, but they're still trying to act out and get your attention. So how are you supposed to respond? Well, you want to make sure that you still keep those proactive strategies in place, but then when you still get those instances, how you respond is equally as important. So you don't necessarily want to just ignore the challenging behaviors. That could make things worse, and oftentimes it does make them worse. And the reason for that is because if they want your attention badly enough, they're going to do whatever they can to try to get your attention and get a reaction out of you or someone else. And this usually requires them to increase the frequency or intensity to the point where you will have to give attention or somebody else will. And then what? And then they've just learned that, oh, okay, well, I just have to do the behavior a little bit more or a little bit more intense, and then I'll get the attention and the reaction, and then that behavior will be their go-to now. An example of this might look like a child tapping their pencil, and then that's ignored, and then they tap louder and louder, and that continues to be ignored. Then maybe they start to hum, and then the humming gets louder, and then maybe they start tapping their feet, and the next thing you know, you got the kid drumming along, and they got their own instrumental section going on. They're putting on a concert, and you have to ask them to stop. So now they've learned that, oh, well, if I just do all of that other stuff, the tapping, the singing, and the stomping, that's what gets the attention. That's more likely to be their go-to, especially if the other stuff is ignored. So instead, what you might want to do is try to intervene with just a little bit of attention early on and give even more or better attention when they decide to act appropriately or just stop the challenging behavior altogether. So in the above example with the child tapping their pencil, once they stop tapping the pencil, just asking them politely to, oh, would you please stop tapping your pencil? And then if they do, oh, I really appreciate that, thank you. What are you working on anyways? And then engaging with them that way so that they know when they don't tap the pencil that that's going to get them a conversation and a lot better attention. Now you might ask, well, if I react with attention, aren't I just reinforcing their bad behaviors? Not necessarily. And you want to keep in mind that not all attention is created equal. So you want to think of attention as a kind of currency or money. And if you give a little bit for slightly challenging behaviors to prevent them from getting worse, like the child tapping the pencil, just make sure that you give a lot more or more valuable attention when they are acting appropriately. And what do I mean by more valuable? Talking about preferred topics, highly preferred joint activity, sometimes physical attention, whatever's more valuable for that individual. If the child's sitting across the room or if they're tapping their feet upstairs in their bedroom, maybe just being closer to them when they are being more quiet or sitting next to them when they're being more quiet. Proximity can be a form of attention and can be more reinforcing. You just want to make sure that your reaction isn't better quality attention than what you're giving them to stop the lower level behaviors. So to recap, number one, make sure that you think the behavior really is attention seeking. Number two, you want to try to act proactively and give attention to lessen the need for the child to even act out for attention in the first place. Number three, you want just keep in mind that ignoring could make the behavior worse. So try to give attention as little and as early as possible. And number four, make sure the attention that you are giving for the positive is more frequent and better quality than for the negative behaviors.